Thank you, Dana. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Traffic Safety Committee. I'm just going to read a few notes. This open meeting of the Traffic Safety Committee is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency signed into law on March 29th, 2023. All members of the Traffic Safety Committee are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The Act allows for the Traffic Safety Committee to meet entirely remotely as long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed in the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative so we can make sure that everyone is heard. Rachel, Scott?
Mr. Chairman, we have Brian as an attendee. I believe the iPad Pro is our Selectman Liaison. And then Jay Van Houten is the Assistant Director of Public Works.
Okay, I will bring them in.
Thank you.
Join as a panelist.
Go. Oh. It is Brian.
Hi, sorry, I found the link.
That's okay. Okay. So members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative to make sure that you can be heard. Rachel Armstrong.
Here.
Kate Gerard.
Here.
Brian Cole.
Here.
Thank you. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Scott Charpentier.
Present.
Brian Griffin.
Present.
And sorry, Jay.
Josh.
Josh.
Yep. Josh Van Houten, present.
Josh Van Houten. Thank you. Okay, so with that, we will get this meeting started. I believe, Lisa, is that you on the iPad Pro? You're muted if you're talking, Lisa.
All right, does that help?
Yes.
That screen just came up. Yes, I normally am like hit a link like you all do, and I've gotten a year's worth of webinaring from Dana, and I called him earlier and said, "How come this has changed?" He goes, "No, it hasn't." I'm like, "Yeah, it has." So I don't, and I'm glad you can't see me because I'm going to be. I've got a cold and I'm coughing every 5 minutes, but
okay.
But yeah, I guess you for tonight, I guess on the iPad Pro 5th generation.
Okay.
Dana, could you change your name possibly?
I'll see what I can do. I think I can.
Yeah, I can do it as well, but Dana, if you can do it, that would be great.
Thank you.
So Lisa, we'll try to keep you from talking as much as possible so that you can get better from your cold.
Thank you.
Okay, so first item up is the South Street flashing speed limit sign request. And I know we got this in an email. Scott, if you want to go over it real quick.
Certainly. So we received an email request from a citizen regarding the curve on South Street. So as you're leaving downtown, heading south toward Westboro, there is a section of South Street in and around the 192 address to maybe 200, where there's a sharp horizontal curve to the left. It's before Northgate on a downslope. In that location, there's a speed limit reduction to 25 miles an hour for that horizontal curve. We've had citizens inquire about adding signage at this location in the past, which we've complied with. This citizen in particular was requesting a flashing lighted sign to be located along South Street. We have motion activated speed limit signs We tried 2 of them on Short Davis Street, probably, I don't know, 6 years ago or something. There's one at each end. One got taken out over on the West Main Street side by a traffic accident. The one on the Southwest Cutoff side is still there and was recently repaired.
Okay.
To give you a little bio on the area, there are 7 advanced warning signs associated directly with that curve. There are 3 chevrons, 3 speed limit signs, and an advanced warning curve ahead sign.
The one that was taken out by the traffic accident or the traffic issue, was that a blinking sign? Was that a lit sign?
Yeah, it's a motion activated solar powered LED speed limit sign. So when it sees a vehicle come, it activates and it blinks for a certain amount of time, 10 seconds or something like that.
Okay. And
Yep.
why wasn't it replaced after the accident?
We just haven't had funds for it yet. These are like between $2,500 and $3,000 each.
Right.
And after it got taken out, people were talking a lot more about RRFBs than that sign. I haven't heard any indications that speed has been a problem on that section of the road. So at the end of the fiscal year, if we didn't put another RRFB in, and we have those resources, we would put replace that blinking sign. They're expensive.
No, I get that. Lisa has her hand up and then Brian.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. As a matter of fact, that one of those signs was supposed to have been on that curve. It was purchased for that curve on South Street. And it got taken and put into a pilot program for the small Davis section. So, and that's what I'd learned from Chief Liver. So I think that if one was taken out and it was a pilot program, I think that maybe it should be replaced in South Street to see how well that works for them.
That sign was never placed on South Street.
I know it wasn't placed on there, but it was purchased for that.
There was a discussion about the request that a citizen made to have one there, and the determination was that the blinking LED light activated every time a vehicle goes by may be problematic in a residential area. So it was never, I don't want to say approved because there really wasn't an approval process then for this type of sign placement, but it never went forward. And the decision was to put them both on each end, one on each end of Short Davis.
So if you're saying that, then you don't think that they're going to want to approve it now because of the problems that you may have had back then?
Well, we never installed the LED speed limit sign on South Street out of concern that it may pose a nuisance to abutting residential neighbors. There's a lot of traffic on South Street. I think will be blinking quite a bit.
Right.
They're expensive, and to put one in there and then to have it, they're designed specifically for a locate, or they're designed for a specific location. They have to do I don't know, like a sun analysis on what size panel they need based on the tree coverage and what direction the panel needs to be installed in. So for example, the RRFBs that we put in on Bartlett Street as funded by Amazon, we provided coordinates for each one of those locations to the vendor so they could specifically design the sign, position of the panel, and size of the panel based on the locations.
So if we weren't going to be able, well, if that was going to be blinking all the time, and I do know I think I've seen signs where as the road bends and it's a hairpin turn that the sign blinks, I guess, all the time.
No, these are motion activated. So when a vehicle approaches, the signs blink.
All right, but I think you're right. In the case of South Street, there's probably a vehicle approaching most of the time.
Yeah, and that was the concern. I never went forward and knocked on the neighbor's door because the discussion that ensued after the request, I believe the citizen was understanding. I believe they would have been one of the ones impacted actually by the sign being kind of in their front yard.
All right. So All right, well, I guess I'll let you guys decide what you'd like to do. I'd recommend doing something for them. If you bring it before the board, I'll represent it.
Okay. Brian, I know you would put up your hand, Claire.
Yeah, first, just to clarify, this is going south on South Street, right? Like right before North Street, or right before Northgate?
Yeah, uphill of Northgate before that curve.
Gotcha. Okay. Second of all, last week, or excuse me, last month, we requested money from our ARPA funds in order to fund the engineering services required for the HCVE study. Are any of those funds still available?
The $18,000 for the heavy commercial vehicle exclusion
Yes.
engineering reports on Lincoln and Pleasant Street, that was approved by the select board. The consultant was engaged for those services. So that did go forward. There could be
Because how to pay for this is for sure a legitimate concern. I'm just curious if we have any money left there.
Yeah, Brian, I would want to keep this to, traffic safety. That's what this committee is responsible for. It's up to the select board if we make a recommendation to come up with the money, if they can do it or not. So I think that would be part of the select board's,
because
we don't control funds. We don't control funds.
I'm aware, but the discussion that we've had to this point has largely focused on the money, more so than whether or not it's a good idea.
No, I would say the RFD signs, we weren't concerned about the money at all. We were looking at safety in front of the schools, and that's what prompted us to move on those. We didn't even know how much they cost at the time.
just a correction to my earlier statement. There are 2 speed limit signs in advance, 4 chevrons, and then the warning, the sharp curve ahead warning sign. So I had a miscount on my part.
It's okay. So, any other comments from members? I mean, there is one heading towards downtown, correct? You said that there were 2. There's one heading towards and one heading away from downtown.
The only motion activated LED speed limit sign we currently have that's up and functional is on Short Davis from Southwest Cutoff End. There used to be one on the other end next to, I think that's like a daycare or something like that, or a kiddie school. There used to be one there, but it got taken out in an accident, and that happened actually recently. I think that was less than a year ago, and we haven't gone forward with replacing that yet.
Okay, so there was one on either side, and they've both been taken out by accidents.
One.
No, just
No?
one.
Yeah, just the one over on West Main Street. When you come off of West Main Street, next to not Honey Farms, but it's a play on that name. That plaza there, that section, there was one right there, and that got
Okay.
hit.
So
Yeah.
when there's an accident that takes out a sign, do you try to get that money from the driver's insurance company?
Usually, yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes it's not reported, or the insurance company's non-responsive. Like we had a vehicle accident. They had a kind of an online only insurance company, and their coverage limit was less than it was to replace a pipe rail over at Howard Street Cemetery.
Any other comments from members?
So you said, Scott, when it had been discussed previously, was it the select board that decided it might be disruptive to the neighborhood?
No, this was how we used to handle traffic safety inquiries. It would come into me, I would review it. Fred Litchfield, our former town engineer, would review it. Chief Liva would review it. We would come to an agreement on what the appropriate process is, and then we communicated that. I communicated that to the resident, indicating, what I described here.
So I guess funding aside, which is obviously an issue, I'm just wondering if we'd want to reach out to the residents in the area to see if they even want to pursue something, another sign there.
I mean, I'm happy to talk to the potentially negatively impacted home, or homes to see if they are concerned with it. There's an opportunity to possibly position it such that it's less intrusive. I know I don't want a blinking LED light in front of my house.
Right. So let me ask you this, and this might go to Chief Griffin as well. Where would be the best place to position such a sign? Do you think it would be on the uphill on the other side as a warning to slow down coming over the hill, or at the top of the hill before you go
I
over?
think going down.
I mean, I would think going downhill, but that's seen accidents going both ways. So I mean, I think if you're going to put one, you should put two, I guess. If funding wasn't an issue, you put two up, and if it wasn't going to be an issue with any neighbors, throw two there.
I mean, another option is instead of the speed limit sign, the advanced warning, and I'm on the Google Earth machine. There's an advanced warning sign of a sharp curve coming up. They do those LED as well, motion activated. Just trying to see where it is. There's probably a decent location. Let me see. We could probably find a location that's protected by vegetation from a home. The problem is the vegetation along this corridor is mostly hardwood, so it wouldn't help much in the wintertime.
Right.
There's really not like a nice big hedge line anywhere.
Yeah, the two on
Lisa-
Davis Street don't have houses right in that
Yeah,
those areas.
They're in very wooded areas, and there's really nobody there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we have, so I know, I actually was just on a social media site today where somebody was mentioning about the safety lights over at Bartlett, and had brought up that, they thought that they were on a little too late, which I know we've already discussed earlier this year, but are there a lot of people that complain about those? Because those, I think, are even brighter lights than what we're talking about here. Are there people that complain about those at all? I know we've heard one or two over the last year.
Yeah, just the ones you're referring to are the ones what I've heard, and that's on the Main Street end. That resident indicated that they see them, they know they're there, but they're happy they're there because it slows people down.
Right.
The other end was in front of Kristen's house, which is set pretty far back, Kristen Wickstead, which is set pretty far back from that location, and it was positioned at an intersection, so it kind of, I don't want to say blended in because it doesn't, but it was less intrusive.
Right. Go ahead, Lisa.
Well, a couple of questions, I guess, or interjection. We did receive a letter by a resident on South, I believe by 190, and a few other people in that area had signed it, saying that they really felt that they wanted to have something there. And I know that Chief Griffin and I have been talking about those lights that you put up that say what your speed limit is and then say slow down. He'll have to remind me if we had talked about putting it in that location. So what that would be is going downhill headed toward Westboro in that area. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the streets I recommended that, pretty much any street leading from one town to another town, it would be a good idea to have those radar signage placed. As for the hill itself, I wasn't really picturing that. I really kind of wanted it more closer to the park, people coming in from Westboro on 135.
So coming north.
Yes, correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
All right, so then I would maybe recommend, and Bill makes a good point, those blinking lights. There are blinking lights that alternate, right, left, right, blink. That could be, I don't know, it could have a still sign saying, slow down or dangerous corner or whatever that nomenclature is. But those two signs, has the blink on either side of it. And they have shields, I think, that go around them. So the shields keep the light from flaring out wide. That might be an option. And if they're $3,000, I think you could come, and there's still a little bit of ARPA money left. You could make a letter to the selectmen on that.
I'd have to look at the regulations and see if those flashing beacons are allowed. I don't know for a fact, but I don't believe they are. The reason I say that is I've never seen them in that use. The only time I've seen them in that use is like specific hazards. For example, if you have a winter advisory, you could have those beacons warning, but I've never seen them used as a alert for a regulatory sign. I've always seen them as a warning beacon.
Okay, is there some other warning signs then that we could look into to put there for that? Because it is a dangerous area. I mean, there's been years and years of concern.
There might be a good spot that, could accommodate the sign and minimally impact the neighbor. We were looking at the current location where the speed limit sign is, which is right in front of 198.
Okay.
And that was, I mean, that they have nothing between the road and their home. It's just like a U-shaped driveway that goes up there, and they would certainly see that in the wintertime.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe there's a spot next to an oak tree or something like that. We could, stick one in there that's not doesn't impact the neighbors.
Yeah, that'd be great, because I know we got a few letters, and this one was several neighbors being quite concerned.
How about I can offer to find a prospective location, talk to the neighbor, say go on Short Davis from Southwest Cutoff. That's what we're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the location, and let me know your thoughts, and I can report back to the committee.
Okay, well, I think that will help us on the board, so.
Yeah, I think that sounds great.
Yeah, I think the other thing to keep in mind too, and I'm sure Lisa is well aware of this, but we only have until next month to use up the ARPA money. So, if we are gonna, and I know I said, we shouldn't look at funding sources, right? But, to Brian's point as well, right? If we do think that they can use ARPA money for this, then we're gonna wanna move on this probably this month, because our next meeting is going to be the middle of December.
It would
right,
be,
which will be too late.
If you can do it for Monday night. I mean, Thursday is when they start the agenda.
So there's two questions then, right? One is, how are we going to pay for this? And two is, where are we going to put it? I guess 2B is, are the neighbors going to be cool with it? Those
Right,
could
well,
certainly be run. Those could certainly be. Those could go in parallel, I suppose, right? Like,
right.
We could write that letter to the select board and also have Scott go find a place to put the sign.
Yeah, and just so everyone's aware, Scott and I are already on the agenda for the select board meeting coming up on Monday to talk about the 25 mile an hour, which is our next agenda item here, right? But we could always, open up that discussion as well if we can find out the information before then. But I know that's really short time for Scott to get that information.
The selectmen packet needs to be put together on the 14th, which is Thursday. We're here on Tuesday. That would give us tomorrow, and you could vote to support contingent upon adequate location and positive response from a butter. And then the select board can approve under the same conditions. And if the abutter's okay with it, like if we can get in touch with the abutter by tomorrow, fine. But if not, the select board could still act on the 18th. And if, you know, the abutter is if there is not a convenient spot that doesn't intrude on a neighbor, then the money just gets reverted and we spend it on sidewalks. Because I'm gonna be at the meeting on the 18th with a lot of sidewalk requests. We have three proposals coming in for sidewalks on Gale Monroe, another proposal for Allen Street, and another proposal for replacement of South Street sidewalks up by the center. My expectation is those three will be close to, if not adequate, to absorb the rest of the ARPA money. I'm also going to have a proposal from our engineering consultant to complete design development for the sidewalk on Maple Street, with the intent of that proposal being a fill gap at the end if the select board has unallocated money or money that's been returned and not used. They could go toward that, just to make sure there's something in the quiver that can just exhaust the account if need be.
Mhm.
Lisa, you got your hand up still.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Chief,
Question, maybe Scott can answer this. Would this, if we were to put it on the downhill heading towards Westboro, and we have the crosswalk there with the flashing lights, is there too much flashing going on for a driver where you see that flashing speed sign and then at the same time someone's trying to cross? I don't know. I'm just thinking as a driver, is that too much going on? Is there any studies?
It may be better to utilize a flashing horizontal curve sign than a speed limit sign, because the location of the speed limit signs are somewhat restrictive on where they need to be placed, because that's where the zone starts. So I only have, like, I don't know, 10, 15 feet in each direction to move that thing. Otherwise, I'm changing a speed zone, which we really can't do. Those advanced warning curve signs, you know, the yellow diamonds with the black, you know, curved arrow on it. You can almost put those things anywhere, as long as it's in advance of the curve. So if we chose one of those, then it provides a lot more flexibility to.
Are they solid or are they flashing?
They're flashing. They're motion activated flashing LEDs. They would be yellow to match the yellow warning sign, as opposed to white signs are regulatory, yellow signs are warning. So it would be a yellow warning sign with yellow flashing LEDs, and it would be in advance of the slope and the curve.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
lots of hands. Lisa again.
Thanks. I believe that's what the neighbors wanted it in advance of the hill going down. That they said to me, well, it doesn't do us any good if it's already past that point. So I think what Scott says sounds like a good idea. There's also one, didn't one have to say that said reduce speed ahead?
I believe there might be one of those. Yes, there's so let me see if I can get my little Google guy to go backwards a little bit here, and I'll share my screen. There we go. All right, so let me see if I can share my screen, hopefully. Zoom. Do I have share screen?
Scott, I think I have to make you co-host first.
Oh, okay. Thank you,
Share
Dana.
the screen. Hold on now.
Is that okay with you, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, absolutely. Don't abuse it though.
While that's getting set up, can I just say to Chief
Yep.
Griffin's point that those two signs are 0.9 miles apart?
Yeah, and I'm almost wondering if, like I said before, if having it on the other side of the hill as you're going up the hill, sort of a warning for people to, start thinking about slowing down as they're going up the hill, because going downhill and slowing down are two things that aren't necessarily synonymous with each other.
Well, all the
Right.
more reason to put it there then.
But going
Right,
uphill,
which-
but going uphill and slowing down is. So if they're slowed down before they even crest the hill, now it's much easier to brake at a slower speed after you go over the hill.
So
Do
that's
we-
why you would want it going down the hill.
Yeah,
No,
I
you
agree.
want it going up this side, up on the heading southbound, going up on the Northborough side. So that way you're already slowed before you get to the downhill on the other side, heading when you can see Northgate.
So if you see this, I assume you can see my screen.
Yes.
Oh, wait, the flashing sign on
So you-
Northgate, my bad.
So you can see the warning sign here, which is the horizontal curve advanced warning sign. If this sign was replaced with an LED and it was set adjacent to this oak tree, that oak tree may serve to block the neighbor here from the reflective lights.
What address is this, Scott?
This would be 198 South Street.
Okay.
And that's well in advance of the dangerous portion. It's on the downhill slope, but it's not, it gets bad when you get to the
Mhm.
limit of this view.
Right. Well, and there's enough, looks like enough shade from the trunk of the tree.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's very limited on where we can move a speed limit sign, just because that changes, that speed limit zone was determined by engineering studies and not just arbitrary. That horizontal curve sign is somewhat of an arbitrary placement.
Mhm.
So I think I was mistaken. I was thinking this was over by Northgate, like right at Northgate, that
No.
hill.
No.
So you're
Well,
talking, this is the other side on the other side of McCaffrey.
this is coming from downtown and going toward Westboro,
Hmm.
and it's before that sharp curve before Northgate.
Right, but you're going up a hill and then cresting over and then coming down to Northgate.
No.
Yeah, I don't think we feel like we're driving uphill, but you might be right. It might be Riley might be a lower street as you're going, you go uphill a little bit.
Yeah, Bill's correct. You do have an upward incline from Riley, and then you crest right after 198, and then it
Right.
slopes downhill. So that angle sign, that curve sign is on the downhill slope, but it's not far after the crest.
Right, so what I'm saying is you put it before the crest, over more towards Riley.
Well, the neighbors at 190 wanted it around that area, so 190 to 198, I guess.
Which, I mean, I appreciate that, but I think it's more important to put the sign where it makes the most sense, not based on who requested it.
Right, no, I agree.
You're saying before we crest, right, Bill?
Correct. Yes.
Which now that you've given me permission, I'm gonna abuse it.
I knew you would.
And
So-
I guess, Brian might be the be all end all. Brian, you know more about accidents and speeds down there, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's growing up in town, clearly that curve was always the curve that your parents told you to take it slow on. Yeah, I without looking at the numbers in front of me, it's not a problem area. It's a dangerous curve, no doubt, but not a spot where we typically see a lot of accidents. For whatever reason, people are probably realize they're in a bad spot and they're obeying the laws. The accidents that we have had there have been fairly significant though, but they're fortunately they're not often.
Yeah, I think this is where Bill's talking about going up the hill in advance of the crest. The crest obviously is here. This may be too far in advance for people to recognize that there's a curve coming up.
Yeah, I agree.
You guys said there was a flashing sign around here that was knocked down by an accident?
No, that sign was on Short Davis
Yeah.
off of
Okay.
West Main Street up by whatever plaza that is.
Not Honey Farms, right?
Right.
Okay.
Family Farm?
Family Farms. That's it. Family
I
Farms.
only live right next to it, so I should probably know.
Okay. So, I think we're all in, if understanding, if I'm reading the group properly, I think we all agree that there is a sign needed, right? I think that the discussion here is funding and location, right? Funding, we'll leave that up to the select board. I don't know that we're going to come with a consensus on location, to be honest, but I think it may need further review, but I do want to get this to the select board for their next meeting if possible. Is everyone okay with that? Brian?
I was just gonna make a motion.
Well, let's make sure, I want to make sure we word this right? So let's see, we will need a motion to recommend a sign in the vicinity of the 190 block of South Street. To be determined, location to be determined by the DPW director. What am I missing?
Contingent on support from
Contingent
the
upon
abutting
support from the abutting neighbors. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay,
Do I have that motion?
so moved. Do you want me to read it?
Okay, second, sure, go ahead.
Motion to present a letter to the select board recommending the installation of a flashing horizontal curve sign in the vicinity of the 190 block of South Street. Location to be determined by the DPW director, contingent on support from the abutting properties.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second,
Second by Rachel. Roll call vote. Rachel,
aye.
Kate,
Okay.
Brian,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. So we'll see if we can move on that. Thank you very much, everybody. Next item on the agenda is the townwide 25-mile-per-hour speed zone. So I don't know if everyone saw this or not. Scott, thank you for getting the additional information. Worcester actually approved this citywide for them back in September. So that's pretty substantial for an entire city. I've seen this in towns, but nothing that large. So they did do a really good survey and had some interesting questions. So I know those were forwarded to the board members. What were your thoughts?
Well, I know there was one about, is speeding a concern in town?
Right.
Yeah, the first, is speeding an issue in the town of Northborough? I mean, I would think so.
Well, I think the reason they asked it that way is they want to see what the difference is between the people who think that speeding is an issue and the people who think that 25-mile-an-hour speed zone will fix it.
So are you asking us to consider those questions or?
No, I'm saying I think we need to do a survey of the town, at least put it out there for their, what they think. So I thought those 3 questions was a good place to start, but I wanted to get everyone else's input.
So I thought the questions were a good starting point. I think it's called a citywide 25-mile-per-hour, but I guess there may be some confusion about unposted versus posted because it doesn't impact every road. So I think that needs to be made clear if that's what we're going for, is just the unposted roads. Just so
Right.
people have a sense as to what this entails. The other thing that I noticed in the Worcester survey is that they had a list of all the roads that it would affect. And I think that would be something that would be really helpful for us as well.
I don't know if we have that. I mean,
Yeah,
we have
we don't
80
have a
miles of
sign
road.
survey.
We don't have it. If we had mobilized the sign survey, sign inventory, then we would have that data. But I mean, this would literally take staff to just drive around and know what segments of road are unposted in thickly settled areas.
Right, but didn't we postpone the sign survey so that it could piggyback on this lowered speed limit? So could we add that when they do the sign survey to add the signs, the roads that don't have a posted speed limit?
Yeah, we can add that. We can have them do a townwide sign inventory. It's just, probably 4 times the cost now because they've already driven around and done the entire town roadway assessment and guardrail reassessment. So either we wait 2 years because we do it every other year to add an element, or we do roadway assessments every other year. And while they're driving around assessing the road conditions, we have them capture one additional piece of data. 1 year was guardrails, 1 year was pavement markings. We got curbing, sidewalks, roadside elements. One thing that we have not captured are signs. And, that would, to do it at this point would require a new effort of driving around town. So when they did the roadway assessment, I want to say it was $28,000 to do the roadway assessment. So that would likely be a similar cost to do it, the signs. At this point.
We talked about the signs already though, right? And pushing that off.
Correct.
Right. We were going to push it off because we were going to do the 25 mile an hour, and we didn't want to do the
Right.
signs and then have it change, right? But the problem now is that now we want to get an inventory of all the signs in order to do the survey to do the 25 mile an hour. So we're sort of caught in this catch-22. I don't think you're going to be able to list out the streets that are going to be affected.
No.
And that may be, I mean, I don't know if that's putting the cart before the horse a little bit. I mean, if people believe, I don't know, if I'm going to vote on it, I probably know what the speed limit is on the street I live on. And that's my primary concern. And then more of a general concern is speeding a problem throughout town? So I don't know. It may be less impactful to have that data, at least at the survey level.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Are you not on the agenda on the 18th to talk about this? The 25
Yes.
mile an hour? And you're
Yes, we are.
asking, so in theory, you could start with the theory of, is everybody in support of doing this type of unmarked speed limit throughout town, as in other towns, and you can name the ones that have them because people are seeing them all over the place. And having the yes for the policy, and then going ahead to find out where they're going to be put. And you could either come back for that, because I mean, if you don't want to move forward with it, I don't know that you need to come forward on the 18th with it.
Well, and the other thing to keep in mind is that there is no posting for this, right? So you're not going around putting around 25 mile an hour speed zone signs. What they do, and this is what I've seen this is why I brought it up, was my kid actually plays soccer in Bedford. So when I drove out to Bedford, they actually have this. And what it is on the outskirts of town, there's a sign that says, unless otherwise posted, default speed limit is 25 miles an hour.
Right.
Be aware this, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Good.
This takes town meeting action. So, the process would be select board says, okay, let's do a survey. Select board, traffic safety committee, or whomever comes up with the questions, the survey gets done. The select board then determines, or this committee recommends, and the select board determines that yes, it's a viable approach. Let's put the article on the warrant and then see what the townspeople vote. And if they vote in favor, at that point, do a sign inventory, determine exactly what is needed to implement.
Yeah, and I think at this point, what we're just trying to determine is what should the survey ask, right? Before we go to the select board, I want to make sure that we can give, here's our recommendation for what should be on the survey to the townspeople if you want to move forward with this. So, but to Rachel's question, right, I don't think we're gonna get a list of streets like Worcester had, right? Just because we don't have a signed inventory of what streets are already posted and what ones aren't. Any other member comments? Any other question ideas? Other than just those three?
What's the statewide speed limit when it's not posted?
30.
30? So I think it might be worth including something like that.
Okay.
Like, so that people are aware if they don't already know. We're just looking to lower it a little bit. It's not
Well,
like
again-
something that we're looking to put
Again,
in
that's
place.
thickly settled. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, but when you're in commercial industrial, it's 40. And if you have a divided highway, you know, it's different. So it depends on the roadway itself. Is that right, Chief?
What we're referring to here, I think in the survey would be for the thickly settled, correct? Which
Yes.
is 30, correct. But yeah, you would have to be clear on that, Scott. You're correct.
Okay. So I'll adjust the questions as what was brought up here, and then we'll bring it in front of the select board on Monday.
All right, Bill, do you want to
Okay with that.
email me the questions as you've written, and I'll put them in our staff memorandum for the packet?
Sure, I'll get you that tonight.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
If you want an example of the signs that they have in Bedford, there seems to be one at 3 Page Road on the Google machine. The point that we should be getting sponsorship at this point. It's incredibly helpful though. I don't know. There's
Scott, I don't know if you want to bring that up since you probably still have.
oh,
I
I
don't know how
that
to
it's
get
worth
that
that.
far away.
Oh,
I don't even know what Bedford is. Taking an hour, took me an hour to find that.
do you have it up on your computer, Brian?
Yeah, but I don't know that it's worth doing all the whole
Okay.
rigmarole to change over. It just says thickly settled, townwide speed limit 25,
Oh, perfect.
unless otherwise noted.
Okay. So if there's no other comments there, move on. So Scott, why don't you give us an update on the Lincoln Street, Pleasant Street?
Certainly. So I was before the select board on October 28th, requesting $18,000 for the engineering studies to be prepared for Lincoln Street and Pleasant Street heavy commercial vehicle exclusions. The select board did allocate ARPA funds for that study on the 28th. We engaged the engineering firm on the 29th to perform those studies. I expect it to be 4 to 6 weeks for completion. My hope is that we'd have something for the December 10th meeting of this committee. If not, it would be the January meeting. The process thereafter is this committee makes a recommendation to the select board. The select board reviews and recommends, requests the Mass DOT to approve it. We send the request to DOT to approve it. They approve it. It comes back to the select board. They adopt and enact. We notify Mass DOT that it's been adopted and enacted by the select board. And then Mass DOT says, here are your signs, go put them up. So it'll be done in a week.
Wishful thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. What about I know there was an issue with, I think, or getting some of the signs for that Lyman Street no parking zone.
Oh, yeah. So this committee voted on October 15th to recommend a no parking zone on Lyman Street. I went forward and ordered the signs and mistakenly did not include it on the 28th agenda. That was completely my oversight. The signs came in last week, and so we wouldn't be able to put them up in time anyway, but we do have it on the agenda for the November 18th meeting.
And then HCVE on Brigham Street is on hold until next fiscal year, right?
That's correct. Yeah, we'll get counts in the spring, see what the counts show, and then go forward from there.
Awesome. Okay. At this point, I will open up the meeting to public comment, but there's nobody in the attendees group. One of these days, we're going to have somebody in there. Okay, moving on. Approval of the October 8th meeting minutes. Did everyone have a chance to read through the meeting minutes? Any changes requested? Okay, hearing nothing. Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes for October 8th?
Oh, so moved.
Okay, second.
Second.
Okay, I'll give that one to Brian. So roll call vote, Rachel,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. So those are approved. Thank you. Next meeting is scheduled for December 10th at 7 p.m. Maybe we'll have something on the agenda coming out of the select board meeting next week. We'll have to wait and see. Is there any other business coming before this board before we close?
Nothing from staff.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Anyone?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote. Brian,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
Rachel,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.